Exercise number 5. Let's open a bit. Go with the width which is comfortable for you. And now we will keep the structure of the lower body, sit in it. And keep it. When we will be turning, don't turn the lower body, keep it. Yeah? What we want really in this exercise is untuck the tailbone. Yeah, and then use your knees as a support to turn your upper body and open the area of the lungs. So turn. And then back to center. And again, untuck the tailbone and turn. Returning to facing forward. Another side. Check your breathing. So in the stretch, still the abdomen should be relaxed and you should be able to breathe naturally. Okay, and let's connect. All right. Yeah, let's speak a bit about this movement. You can have a seat. So this movement is called turning the head and hoist the tail to get rid of excessive heat of the heart. Yeah, excessive heat which accumulates in the heart. What we do, we open the area of the lungs. Lungs have this effect. It increases vaporization ability of the lungs, and by this it quiets the excessive heat accumulated in the heart. Now lungs, we spoke a bit with you about it, yeah? It's actually metal element. And in Bagua, remember we spoke about 8 gates as well. Remember we spoke about this? It's represented by the wind. And this wind is actually movement of convergence starting. So if we speak a bit about Bagua, yeah, the movement from earth to heaven is movement from inwards outwards, and from heaven to earth is movement of convergence back to your own self. And this movement of convergence starts with the air movement, and what is responsible for air movement in our body are lungs. So on this Bagua, when we go backwards towards ourselves, we return towards inside. We return towards the intuition. Return towards the self, deeper self. Energy of the metal, you can think about it like a fog which goes down and dissipates. It actually has the sinking ability. It allows the chi to sink down and dissipate. Yeah, the chi postnatal chi, yeah, is the chi which is generated from the air, which is generated from the food. Yeah, it's actually very much related to the lungs. And this chi can then sink down. This is the quality of the metal element, sink down, and actually meet the prenatal energy, which is accumulated in the kidneys. Right? We spoke about it, if you remember, Jing. So you can relate to it, for example, on the circle of Bamen. Wind is generation of postnatal chi. Then in the water, it meets the kidneys, meets the prenatal chi, and merges with it. And this creates an inner silence, which is represented by the gate, which is called mountain. Yeah, remember we spoke about lake here, the lake, it was also silence, but this was silence of movement outwards. The mountain is silence of movement inward. So it's like you arrive to the peak of the mountain and you are so silent, nowhere to go. You sit and you contemplate towards the self. And when everything is consumed by the self, nothing else but the self, this is when you can say you reach earth. Silence of earth. It's no more you and the silence of the mountain, it's just the silence. And if you already started to speak about Bhagwa, I was thinking about it yesterday, and actually, you know, in beautiful cultures of India, which speak of self-realization, they have these paths towards self-realization. One is path of devotion, path of love, and another path is path of knowledge, right? So, and actually the Bhagwa shows that these two paths are inseparable. It shows that by the way of nature, we have the phases in which we move towards outwards. And you can relate to movement outwards as movement of path of devotion. When you see object of love, yeah, path of devotion, it speaks that you contemplate the object of your love so much until you are consumed by this object of love. And this is actually when we reach heaven. And then there is a path of inner convergence when you contemplate the self. Yeah? And here, when you reach down to the depths of the earth, everything is embraced by the self. There is no more anything else but the self. And actually, these are the same. Yeah, but this is the expression, how we express it. And how we can express it by explaining it according to the Bhagwa. And this movement of Bhagwa, when the person can recognize, then there are different phases, yeah? It's actually surrender from the beginning of the path. You surrender to the way of nature. So sometimes there are times when you are more focused outwards, when you want to share the love, when you go towards the object of love. And sometimes there are times when you go inwards and you converge inside. And these are completely fine. You accept them as they are. But obviously, when you go and you can go towards in the path of devotion and you open to love, which embraces everything, then you reach the self. It is the same. Yeah, but actually we cannot show that this is the same in the Bhagwa. So the deeper you go towards either of the realizations, the deeper you see the other paths as well, which are actually the same. Yeah, we say in Tai Chi that Wuji, the supreme, the ultimate emptiness. Wuji is ultimate emptiness in Chinese, is mother of yin and yang. And this is actually when both yin and yang disappear, when concepts of Bhagwa disappear. Yeah, and we cannot speak in terms of mind here. Yeah, people who tried to speak, they knew perfectly well that whatever they say, it's not that. And they also knew that they are bound to be misunderstood, because whatever you think about this is not that. So some people in different spiritual paths say, not this and not that. Not an object. You cannot objectify, but you can experience. Okay, let's return to the energy of the lungs. What is excessive heat of the heart actually? Excessive heat of the heart, it's extreme fire. It's energy of the fire, it's energy of burst, energy of outbreak. Yeah, energy of taking over the world. When it's not controlled, the person doesn't feel the limits. And in extreme cases, it can go between polarities of mania and depression. So separation between mind and body, if you want, is very strong. Excessive gladness is also of this nature as well. So lungs has the ability to balance the pulse of the heart. The idea is to slow down, to create harmony in the breathing. Lungs also symbolize the boundary, or also we can say limits between inner and outer. So this is a place where we can check our limits and feel them. So we all know these feelings. Yes, sometimes we feel we can do it. We don't feel the limits. We start doing something, but then we become tired. We didn't feel our limits, and it seems very difficult then to accomplish this. And then the cycle starts again. So metta allows us to calm down this fire, to feel the limits. Yeah, and also what we can speak is that this excessive fire naturally accumulates in the heart. Yeah, and excessive water actually accumulates down. So we know when people are tired after work and eyes are not very balanced, this is not a balanced state. Fire is up and water is down. What we really want is what my teacher Fito calls after completion state. We want with actually metal helps us with this. It actually helps to bring the fire down. And water then can come up. Yeah? For example, microcosmic orbit circulation naturally brings it up. And then the fire hits the water from below, and water evaporates. And this is symbolically represents Shen, spirit, state of awareness. Okay. Let's do maybe the exercise a couple of times more. So sit comfortably. By the way, if it's difficult to turn a lot, you can turn just a bit. This will also be all right. Just we want to open the lungs. So the emphasis is on that. And if you can do stronger, you can turn. And then again, back. And breathing, let's breathe the awareness into ourselves. Observe, notice, experience. And last time. All right. And let's collect. Okay.